Hey guys, I'm so glad that I'm able to come to you this afternoon or this morning um, to talk to you about grand jury. And so um, I have some instructions here on the common law grand jury that I have gotten from another source because we don't have something in our Arkansas assemblies that have enough information on grand jury. I've had to go and outsource it. I do have a whole packet on this on grand jury and a book that talks about common law grand jury that I will email to you guys just to kind of give you guys more information on grand jury. Grand jury members, it says here that they must be elected by the people, not citizens of the county or jurisdiction that they are operating. So at this moment, our grand jury is operating on a state level and not county level. We are in the process of building our counties. And so as our counties populate and get theirs up, then they would build their own of each county. Hopefully we will have that soon because the grand jury is key in our containment and enforcement of our government following rules and the Constitution. There are no rules defining a procedure for how we are seated as grand jurors. The people, without the influence of government, decide for themselves how the grand jury members are elected. There must be 25 members to the grand jury. So we have 25 in our grand jury. Qualifications. The members must be people and not citizens of their jurisdiction. Now, when it says citizens here, it means U.S. citizens. We are already we the people, and not only that, we are American state citizens, and so we that's how we have to be in the grand jury. We must be people of Arkansas State. Each member must be sworn in. Now, we don't swear oaths, but we must affirm in to observe all the rules as far as in your power. So when the grand jury meets, we have to have 13 people present out of the 25 in order to have a quorum. And if anything is voted on with that 13 people there, all 12 of the 13 must be in unison. You have to have a minimum of 12. Any other time that the grand jury has people present, you just need majority vote, 3/4 majority vote on issues. So yeah, all grand jury votes are decided by majority vote of members that are present. If someone ends up having to leave the grand jury, then the grand jury will pick someone to take their place. The finality of decisions with the grand jury. There is no decision of a grand jury that is reviewable in any court of the government. So our grand jury cannot have our stuff reviewed by any government official. They can't review the recordings, they can't review the records, they can't review deliberations, they can't review anything that you guys do. Everything that you guys do is done in secret, and now anything that is recorded stays with the grand jury and the General Assembly and does not leave that facility. Even nothing can be subpoenaed. If let's just say the government tried to come in and subpoena the records of the grand jury, they can't. The grand jury is like your fourth branch of government, and it's actually outside of the government's reach and outside of their realm. That's how it stays sovereign, and that's how it is able to be a shield. It's usually the grand jury, the icon or the symbol for it is a shield with a sword, or a shield with two swords. And the shield was to shield the people and to shield and protect their property from the government. And it also works as a sword, and the sword is to go after corrupt government officials, or to go after, the other sword would be to go after criminals and crime that you find in your area. The jurisdiction, the jurisdiction of the grand jury is, for instance, if we have a county grand jury, that county grand jury can usually only look at matters of the county. So Garland County can only look at matters that are going on in Garland County. Now, they can have information and evidence brought to them that concerns the state, let's say. Okay, so if it ends up being something that concerns the state, then we can utilize the state grand jury to go and investigate stuff that happens statewide. And so that's how that works. We can go after any government breaking any articles of peace or security, or breaking the Constitution. The grand jury can also go after any dispute regarding anyone who has been unconstitutionally detained or removed by the government without a legal sentence of his peers from his lands, castles, liberties, or lawful right. So we can also, if the judges or if anyone in the government has gone after any one of our people, then we can absolutely go after them because there's not a legal sentence of his peers. In order for the courts that we have in the de facto, the courts are in sea jurisdiction, maritime and admiralty jurisdiction. The courts that we have are in land jurisdiction, general jurisdiction, or land jurisdiction and general jurisdiction, which is actually a higher court than the sea jurisdiction. We actually can do land, air, and water. We can do all three jurisdictions of international law at state level. And so because of that, being able to do those, we are the higher court. Now, the grand jury, the de jure grand jury has not been activated in 150 years, 200 years. So we will be reenacting that grand jury. And so the good news is that enacting this, the grand jury has ultimate power. And what I mean by that is if you go to research anything, nobody can stop you. So what's possible with our grand jury? Let's just look at what's possible. With our grand jury, if we take it seriously and we remain in session and really start looking at things that are going on in our counties and in our state, and we build more grand juries in our counties, because if we have a grand jury in every county, that's 75 grand juries in each county, plus the state grand jury. So we have the ability to affect change all over the state. We can turn back the political clock to 1789. We can turn back the judicial clock to 1789. We can indict criminals, including judges and politicians. We can reinstate the real duties of the sheriff. We can reinstate the elected committeemen. We can get our armories back, our militia. We can force compliance to the Third Continental Congress. We can stop Agenda 21. We can get a ban on GMOs. We can ban high fructose corn syrup. We can stop the chemtrails. We can free our doctors and medicines from the elite pharmaceutical companies. We can end gun control. We can force the courts to return to common law. We can delete the IRS. We can delete the United Nations in New York City. We can stop open political corruption. We can stop open judicial corruption. whatever other just things that you guys can think of. We can do all of these things, and we can save America through the grand jury of we the people. So how this works is, if a grand jury is informed of any dispute regarding anyone who has been unconstitutionally detained or removed by the government without a legal sentence of his peers from his lands, his castles, his liberties, his lawful right, then the dispute shall be settled by the grand jury. So that's where we are right now. We have a dispute. We have a member of our American State Nationals who has been seized unconstitutionally by the government without a legal sentence of his peers, which means without having the ability to go through a trial by jury. Through the Constitution, we are owed a trial by jury. It's this Article 7, and it says that if anyone has a dispute of $20 or more, they are owed a trial by jury of their peers in common law. So that's what we're owed, and that's what we're guaranteed. And so that hasn't happened. And so we will have evidence now brought before us to show how this individual was taken by the government without a trial by jury. Now, procedure number 2, enforcement. So let's say that the grand jury decides they want to do an investigation. They get information that comes to them. Now, because the grand jury operates in our state and, of course, eventually in our counties, what we do is anybody can come to the grand jury to give testimony about anything, to give evidence about anything at any time. Once the public knows that we have an operating grand jury, then they can come and give evidence. If they see corruption or crime, they can come and give evidence to the grand jury at any time. And that evidence is only heard by the grand jury, and it is private and cannot be subpoenaed, which gives people a place to come and be a whistleblower. But not only are they whistleblowing, then the grand jury can investigate anything they want. And so they will have 4 people. So out of your 25, you would elect 4 people to be your grand jury investigators. And those grand jury investigators, like I said, can go investigate anything. I mean, anything. They can investigate paperwork. They can go to any company, any government official. They can get any evidence that they need, and they can't be hindered. And if they are hindered, if the grand jury is hindered from investigating, and the government or whoever they're going to investigate, a corporation, whatever, then in that hindrance, they can actually give an indictment for hindering them. And if they don't give the evidence that is needed within 40 days, no, that's not correct. That's the error. If the government doesn't adhere, then they can actually be imprisoned. But the 4 members that are your investigative team, they actually can look at anything. Once they see that a transgression has occurred against someone, then they can go to the government and they show the government their error. The 4 members ask the government to amend an error without delay. If the government does not amend their error within 40 days after being shown the error, the 4 members shall refer the matter to the remainder of the grand jury. The grand jury may distrain and oppress the government in every way in their power, namely by taking homes, lands, possessions, and any way else until they get amends until they get amends from the government, according to the sole judgment of the grand jury. So basically, Well, let's just say jurisdiction, for instance. So if they have been given information that jurisdiction had been challenged and that it had not been declared in that government error, then these 4 members could, in essence, go to the court and show them their error and give them 40 days to correct an error. And if they don't do that if they don't correct the error, then the grand jury can oppress them till they do. Now, the limitation of the powers of the grand jury. Here's your limitations. The grand jury may not imprison or execute any government personnel or their children. So you can take their homes, their lands, their possessions. You just can't kill them or imprison them. Now, if you public support, as we get here, and as we get here in the public support, if they come and give evidence, or however they support by coming and helping, if they come as witnesses, they must first also give an affirmation too in front of the judge. So, public support. The authority to support the grand jury is pre-authorized by the government. It's pre-authorized it's in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Magna Carta, which our Constitution was made after the Magna Carta. So if anyone refuses to support a grand jury decision, the government, that's the de facto government, will force him to swear his support of the grand jury. Limitations on government. The government is prohibited from doing anything to diminish the effect of the grand jury. Did you hear that? The government is prohibited from doing anything to diminish the effect of the grand jury. If the government does prohibit or diminish the effectiveness of the grand jury, it shall be in vain and invalid and may not be used in any later proceeding by the government or anyone else. So, termination of enforcement. When all issues are settled to the satisfaction of the grand jury, then things shall return to normal as they were before. No grudges. So, the government is supposed to know that they can't hold grudges against the grand jury. They can't arrest the grand jury members or put them in prison for their verdicts or for the things that they do unless we are breaking common law. So everything that we do as grand jurors, we also make an affirmation that we will uphold the common law and that we will do things with honor and integrity and find the truth. So when the colonies were separated from England, here's a little bit about background. When the colonies were separated from England, King John retaliated by revoking the charters. Technically, the colonies were without any legal authority to operate. However, civics, the branch of political philosophy concerned with individual rights, was generally taught and known by the people, who asserted their rights and maintained order by applying the common law. The people united in the form of common law, grand juries, and continued the functioning of the government at that time. As the legislators matured, they slowly increased governmental power while simultaneously reducing the sovereign power. This was done through a combination of passing pro-government legislation and reducing and eliminating education about civics, which is interesting today because in high school they don't teach civics anymore. When my son was in 9th grade, he took civics, and the following year they took civics out of school. My daughter wasn't taught civics in school, and they don't teach it now. And American history, they don't teach American history anymore. We had American history and U.S. history, yet we really didn't understand that American history had to do with the Republican form of government. and U.S. history had to do with the corporation. We didn't realize that then, or maybe people did, but our whole generation wasn't taught that. But despite the fact that state and federal constitutions still acknowledge the common law as the ultimate law system, people everywhere are conditioned to believe that the statutory, de facto, admiralty, and maritime law and their codes are the only source of law. The only remaining common law term generally known among the public is called a common law marriage. So our constitutions still say that we operate at common law. So if that's the case, then we can stand for that. The common law grand jury is dormant only because of public ignorance of its powers that supersede all other government entities, including the modern statutorily defined grand jury. Awakening the grand jury probably is not going to be graciously accepted by the government. They're probably not going to like that we have done this, but we are completely within the rights as our people, rights in the Constitution, and rights based on our traditions. So even Supreme Court cases protect it. So I don't think I'm going to go any further on that at this moment. So basically, your grand jury is probably your most powerful tool that we the people have as sovereigns, because that grand jury represents and is a shield for all the people, and they can bring anything they want to the table. They can put an indictment on anybody that they want, and that indictment has to be carried out. Now, an indictment is not it's not a sentencing. It's actually just saying that there's been enough evidence given to the grand jury to press it further into a trial where it can be tried by our petit jury. Our petit jury is a 12-man jury, so that's our regular 12-man jury. So once an indictment goes out from our grand jury, that goes to the, well, it doesn't actually have to go to the district attorney, but it would go through the district attorney, and the district attorney would then take that indictment and have those people brought into our courts for a hearing with the 12-man jury and with the plaintiff that had came and given the evidence. And so then they would have a hearing on that issue, and whatever that 12-man jury brings forth as a verdict is a verdict. If the district attorney does not give the indictment and have those government officials brought into our grand jury, then at that time the grand jury could indict the district attorney and have him indicted for hindering the grand jury or obstructing the grand jury. And that's usually a pretty serious thing, and then it would go higher up from there. So the main thing is we have to come together, learn how we work and operate, learn that we're here to protect the people, and we have what's called jury nullification. We can nullify laws. Any law that comes before, any law, statute, code, anything that comes before us as a grand jury and as a jury can be challenged and be nullified on a petit jury level. So a law that comes forth can be nullified. It would then be taken, that law. So say there's the law on having to have a license plate on your vehicle that's state registered. We could challenge that. Our petit jury could challenge that law and say that it had to be restated, saying that not unless you're American State National, you don't have to have a tag, or something the public doesn't have to have a tag, something. They would have to put something else in there. That whatever that jury made the verdict on to change that law would go. We would have our sheriff or marshal at arms deliver that to the Congress here in our state, and they would have to change it. We also have something that's called order nullification. Judges' orders, any orders of a judge or any orders that come in from a government official that doesn't stand with the grand jury can nullify those. There's also something called writ attain, a writ of attain, not a writ of attainder, but a writ of attain. And what that is, and I have to double check that, but back in English law, now if you go common law, there was a writ of attain, which meant that if a individual was in jail, then the grand jury could have them taken out of jail, brought before the grand jury, brought their whole case be brought before the grand jury, and the grand jury retry it, and their decision would stand, and that's a writ of attain. I don't know as much about that one yet. I'm still learning. I do know that that one went out in like the 1600s or something. We're trying to look and see if we can find any of that here in the Americas where it was used. If we could get a record of where it was used, that would be a really good one to utilize. But just to know that as a grand jury member, our meetings are secretive. Not only are they secretive, all of the recordings and things remain in our hands. It can't be taken. And actually, if any of our stuff actually does get taken, and if it ever does get used, then whoever has it actually would be committing a felony offense. And so I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can think of on grand jury right this minute. I am going to send you guys a book. I'm going to send you an email as well with just a bunch of information of grand jury. Some of it may all not be the exact same, because with the grand jury, the cool thing about a grand jury is they're built by the people. They're put up by the people. You can put them up anywhere. They can meet anywhere. They have really no restrictions. You can kick a judge out of your quarters. You can kick anybody out of your quarters and out of your meetings. You don't have to you pretty much have free reign of whatever it is that you want done. And but you're most powerful because you are the watchdog. You are the one that can actually hold the government officials and accountable, which is why they began taking over the grand jury and making the grand jury beholden to the court. The grand jury is not supposed to be part of any court system. It operates on its own. But the grand jury that we have in the de facto operates in a court system, and everything has to go through the prosecuting attorney or the district attorney. But that's not the case in a common law grand jury, a de jure one. That grand jury doesn't have to go through any prosecutor, and anybody can come to them at any time with any information. And they can go gather whatever information they desire from wherever they desire. But they took the real power of the grand juries down because they didn't want us to know the true power that we had, because they don't want the grand jury to come in and exert accountability over the government, which is why the government controls the de facto grand juries right now. They're controlled by the prosecuting attorneys. And nothing happens without the prosecuting attorney. And they actually they're not told the power that they have in the de facto grand jury as well. They don't know. So we know, and we're learning, and we're going to continue to learn. And I'm going to send you guys some information. And if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you look at some of this information and you need some more information, just let me know. Feel free to text me. Feel free to email me or call me. And if I need to end up putting out another video, I can. If I need to go into more detail on some things, I will. But just, anyway, bye, guys.